I could have been stronger. I could have stood up for myself.
Yep. Right. So like anytime I try to blame her, you're gonna say like I should have been stronger. Like you're gonna protect her by blaming yourself. And so, can you start by just telling me what I should call you today, or what you go by?
You can just call me by my name, Gabriel. I think I'd actually prefer that because it's gonna
Okay.
feel a bit more personal, if you don't mind.
Okay. Sure. So, Gabriel, and what did you want to talk about today?
So there's a few things. I wanted to, introduce you to my past a little bit, so to speak, because I think it's gonna be helpful. I'm a very open person, so I
Okay.
don't really have an issue talking about the shit I went through, pretty much.
Okay.
And basically, something really good is happening to me, actually. I had some pretty severe social anxiety. It was very bad, pretty much. And I came across your content like 2 months ago, and your stuff and the interviews. I've watched so many of them by now that it has helped me so much. Like the meditations, the alternate nostril breathing. Like I'm doing a lot of stuff, and it's been very helpful. And seeing your stuff actually convinced me to see a therapist as well because I was very resistant for years and years. I was like, I always had that feeling of if there's something wrong with me and I can't fix it myself, then no one can. And I was just
Mm.
like, I'm not gonna go see a therapist. Like, fuck that. It's not useful. I had that kind of mentality pretty much. And I saw your stuff and I was like, well, this guy's a therapist. He's pretty cool. I guess, I'm gonna try at least. And so I'm seeing this therapist that's actually a friend of my family, and it's been great. We clicked, so it's nice. And it's part of the topic from today. I've dealt a lot with my anxiety, and it's a lot better. And then I'm noticing that underneath it, there's like this layer of what I call depression. It may or may not be. I don't actually have a diagnosis, to be honest.
Hmm.
But, for the longest time, I thought I didn't do things just because I was anxious. And the more and more I lower my anxiety, I notice that there's something lying underneath it that's like a total lack of motivation, focus, concentration. I just don't have that impulse. I kind of don't want to call it an impulse because it kind of has a bad connotation to it, but I don't have the impulse to do the things that I know I want to. So I can rationalize that I want to do something, but it's like my body doesn't respond in a way. And my senses also feel very numb. It's like, it's gonna sound weird to put it this way, but I'm very into philosophy, so bear with me here. It's like I see things, but I don't perceive them. And it's like I hear things, but I don't comprehend them. And it's like I touch things and I do not feel them. That's kind of it.
Gabriel, dude, you're a poet, my friend.
Thank you. I actually wrote a lot of poetry during high school. I'm into it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you certainly have a way with words. I think you captured the resistance to see a therapist in honestly the best way I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Which is that I mean the sentiment was perfect. It's like if I can't fix it, no one can fix it, right? It's so weird. It's like this kind of weird self-reliance that like I should be able to do this. And if I can't do this, there's something wrong with me. And if there's something wrong with me, no one outside of me is going to be able to fix it, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
because as human beings, sorry to interrupt, I didn't notice you were going to keep talking. Sorry.
No, go for it.
Uh,
I was done.
as human beings, we are so like unique and have so much individuality, and we like notice things on such a big scale that the problem can like feel so huge to us, and you're like, yeah, nobody's fixing this. There's no way.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let me just. So let's start with your past then, Gabriel. So maybe we can help you kind of unpack things, understand what's underneath. By all means, be philosophical, bro.
Thank you, thank you.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start as well. My first therapy session, that's basically what I unloaded into my therapist. That's the word I used. I didn't tell him I unloaded like all of my past, and that took like 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to do the same here because we don't have enough time. But uh, basically, you know, uh, my father was very nice. He was pretty, he was the type of intimidating guy that liked to win over people by being intimidating and forcing them to agree with him in a way. So he was a very oppressive presence around the house. And where do I even start? Like sometimes he would get home drunk and he would beat me for no reason. So that was a lot of fun. I remember specifically this one time I was just sitting in the couch watching DBZ, and he just walks in, and I was like five or something, 5 or 4, and he just walks in and he's like straight up, he's just holding me up like one leg in the air. He's just like beating my ass in the air like that. And I, if I try to remember how I felt, like I'm not even sure. I was just like, I'm not even sure I knew what was going on. I just kept staring at the TV. I just kept watching. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And he had a bunch of friends with him as well, and I heard them laughing. So that kind of happened, but I think, my child mind made it a point to not look around because, I didn't want to see the people that were laughing at me. I was just like, I'm just gonna stare at the TV. I'm not gonna look around, kind of
Sounds
thing.
like you maybe were seeing but not perceiving.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way actually, but absolutely, absolutely. And so I don't know how many times he would do that. My memory gets kind of foggy. I think it's sort of a protection mechanism, maybe some things I can't really remember well. So he was very like that. There would be a lot of arguments in that house, and a lot of screaming, and he didn't get along well with his brothers as well. Like sometimes they would pull knives on each other, like throw drawers at each other, like some real fucked up shit. Actually, this one time my father was out in the garage. So the way that house is set up is kind of like there's a staircase for you to go inside, and that staircase, when you go down it, it's where the garage is, and like there's a window. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically, um, my father and my uncle were having an argument through this window. One down into the garage and the other one, up near the kitchen area. And like they just straight up take a fucking drawer and chuck it through the window. There's glass everywhere, like straight up trying to murder each other in a way. But they never did. They're both still alive. So that kind of thing would happen a lot. And my father also wasn't a fan of my expressive, outgoing, extroverted personality because he's the type of guy that has that mentality that a man should be serious and stone-faced, and he's not supposed to have a lot of feelings or be. I was a little firecracker. I'm very energetic, so I would be jumping up and down. Sometimes I'd be running around the house, and my father was having none of that shit pretty much. So he wasn't very happy about it. He was also, he had a lot of, I don't even know how to say this, but basically he was homophobic because I behaved that way. He believed that meant that I was gay, because I was very expressive and all that kind of thing. And so he would say things like, I'm not gonna raise no gay son and all that classic stuff. And so he really tried to beat my personality out of me because he didn't like it, and he thought it meant that I was fruity and all kinds of things. So it wasn't very fun being around him. And basically what happened was, I guess it's pretty obvious from everything that's going on, there would be a divorce when I was like 6. He and my mom got separated. And I remember feeling very confused at the time because I didn't know who I wanted to stay with. And it wasn't actually because of my father, because at my father's house, he lived together with my grandma, his mother, and one of my uncles that I really liked, his brother, because we would play a lot of games together. It's like his room would be a safe haven for me. I would just walk in there and would start playing. And especially because my father did along very well with this brother of him, my uncle, he wouldn't interject very much on what we were doing inside his room. So, I guess he was just like, I don't want to talk to this guy, so whatever. So I liked my grandma and my uncle quite a bit. So I was very confused on where I wanted to stay, and I would live 4 months with my mother, and then 4 months with my grandma and my uncle. And at the time, my father was getting busy doing nurse stuff because he's always been into medicine. That's something he wanted me to do. He was like, he noticed that I was very smart from a young age, and he was like, I'm gonna mold you into this thing, like just very annoying type of thing. Where he was like, I never managed to be a doctor. Now because I fucked up, you're gonna be a doctor, and you're gonna be like this, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Eventually, I would settle on living with my mother because my grandma and uncle also started being quite unpleasant, I want to say. In the beginning, it was cool, and then they started criticizing my mother a lot, saying things like she was misusing the child support money, that she should be buying me clothes and paying courses for me to learn shit. But the reality of the matter is, I was kind of born into poverty here in Brazil. It's a third world country. And so that child support money she had to use to pay rent. And I would always explain it to them, like, what do you expect? You want her to buy me clothes, and then we're just gonna sleep under a bridge or something. That doesn't make any fucking sense. So they would criticize her unfairly, is the word I use. Like, it wasn't fair at all. Just unfair criticism, very much. My uncle was becoming more and more bitter. I don't know what was going on with him at the time. And my grandma, she like spoiled me way too much. So it's like total contrast between my father and my grandma, where my father would have a totally oppressive aura about him and those things he wanted me to do that I was gonna do. And then my grandma, on the other hand, she was too far, on the other end. So, for example, I remember going to a preschool, and it was on the same street actually, the same street where this house was. The preschool was just like right across the street. And it's like that thing where you had one job. She had one job that was to wake me up at like 6 a.m. or something for me to get ready. And she'd be like, "Oh, I tried to wake you up, but you weren't waking up. So just I felt bad. So I would miss a lot of school days because of it. She felt bad waking me up to go to preschool or whatever when I was 6. And something that was very bad that used to happen while I was living there too, in this period where I kept going back and forth, was actually there would be nobody around the house for the most part, so I would stay in there alone all day because my father and my grandma would be working all day, and I can't remember what my uncle was doing for some reason, but he also would not be home. So I would stay home alone all day, and I wasn't allowed to go outside to play with other kids, so I didn't have any friends at that point. And I would also like maybe starve for a bit because I was all alone in the house. I had nothing to eat. And so here comes, another part of my grandma spoiled things that weren't very nice. Is she would come home after a day where I didn't have anything to eat, and she would offer me like cookies and stuff like that. It's like that's not what you should be giving me. And I was, too young to know any better. But anyways, uh, eventually that would cause me to actually have some sort of issue with my eating. I'm not sure what it was. I was too young to actually pay attention, but that's gonna tie into later when I'm living with my mother consistently, and I never went back there to live. At least I did some visits, and unfortunately, she would have this guy come over to live with us who would become my stepfather, and he would also be abusive to me in a similar manner to my father. And in some points he was worse, in some he was better. So people are different, even in their abuse, right? The individuality of humanity. And I remember specifically, I ended up having these stomach issues, and that was one of his biggest problems with me because I would go, have breakfast at the kitchen desk or whatever you call it in English, and I'd sit there like for 3 hours trying to eat a loaf of bread. Like, it was really hard for me. I was having some, real stomachal issues or whatever you call them, and he would get so mad over that shit actually. So this one time, and fair warning, chat, if you have a week, or if you're having lunch right now, just stop for a bit. I was trying to have my lunch, and I would stay basically all day alone because my mother would be working. She was the provider, and she would take care of me. I was having lunch, and I just couldn't eat. I ate like 2 spoons of it, and I just couldn't eat anymore. So he forced me to eat more, and that caused me to vomit all over the plate. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, he also made me eat a spoonful of the vomit that I had just, you know. So that wasn't very nice either. It's one of the more things that marked me that I can remember about that time, because I'm sure there were like all other kinds of shit that he would do to me, but my memory just it's like I said, I think it's maybe a protective thing. I don't know, because I can't remember much else. But the feeling was very bad. It was like my mother's going to work. She was the only family member that was like fair and kind to me, but she would also instill some maturity, like my grandma. So like my mother was the star of my world at
Sure.
that point. So she would leave, and I would be alone with my stepfather, and was like, well, I guess now I know I'm alone with this guy. Maybe I'll eat my vomit today again. Who knows what's gonna happen. So
Sounds
that
like
kind
it
of
would
thing.
be important for you to eat it but not taste it.
You're good. You're very good. I never thought about it like that either. So yeah. And it was rough on my mother too. She actually ended up developing depression over the years living with this guy because, she would tell him to fuck off and leave the house because she didn't want him living with us anymore. And he just would not do it for like 3 or 4 years. She would keep telling him to go away and he just wouldn't because, it was a free, easy life for him. He didn't have to work. My mother was providing for everything. And when we picked him up, so to speak, his mother had just like thrown him out of her house because he refused to get a job and he just did drugs all day or whatever. And so his mother was very pissed at him and threw him out of his house. And my mother took him up because, my mother is a very kind person. She would eventually fall in love with him and all that stuff. In the beginning, he wasn't so bad. He just like he transformed into a total fucking dick over the years. And so like at first he was that kind of guy you wouldn't look twice at. It's like just normal. But
Okay.
eventually that would cause problems. So she would fall into depression, keep telling him to leave her home. He wouldn't. Eventually he did, but at that point I'd say a lot of damage had been done to me already.
Sounds like it,
And
man.
yeah, he had a similar thing to my father where he would also call me gay and all kinds of stuff because of the way I gesticulate a lot and talking and all types of things. And like sometimes I wonder, like if I was actually homosexual, how hard it would be. Because I'm not even, and these things, still affected me. Like imagine if I actually was, I think I'd have a lot more trouble too. But like part of the sad thing about this is my uncle would get in on it. So my father's brother in this case, not from the family of my father. So this uncle of mine, brother to my mother, would also get in, making fun of me for acting and moving the way I did, all that kind of good stuff. So they just kind of would come in here and basically leech off my mother's work because they would turn on the computers and use the internet to play like Grand Chase at the time. It was a level up game or whatever. And while they were doing that, they would take the opportunity to rip on me and all kinds of shit.
You're talking
So
about your uncle and your stepdad? Or just
yes,
okay. Okay.
they would join forces, a malevolent force.
Okay.
And so that was kind of what family life was for me. I was always very oppressed for being too outgoing, too loud, too extroverted. I was like, damn, I should have been born into an Italian family. Nobody would have had an issue with me, but you know, that wasn't the case. In fact, so my cousin, sorry, there's some loud thing going on my street right now. I hope that doesn't bother anybody.
I don't hear
Uh,
anything actually.
okay, that's good. That's good. I'm super like conscious about the noise because I'm using a phone as a mic, so a lot of things get picked up. Uh, what was I saying? I have a Vata mind, by the way. You can tell.
Yep, I think that's what they mistook for homosexuality.
Yeah.
So, can you just tell me a little bit? So, it sounds like you gave us a little bit about your upbringing, and can you tell us a little bit about the social anxiety?
Yeah. So I think it's connected. Like I've made a lot of observations on myself along the years, and part of my annoyance at myself is that I knew so much about the roots of my issues, but I could never solve anything. And that's like with a lot of your content has provided me like ways to deal with it because I've always been very good at noticing. So the whole social anxiety thing is like I definitely see it as my natural personality that was so oppressed by my family. And then eventually it would become oppression turned to repression because I would take those ideals that I should not be that way and I would implement them and internalize them. So school wasn't easy for me either. I was always bullied a lot and I didn't have a lot of friends. So like I was fucked at home, I was fucked at school. It was like ironically the place I felt the safest was the streets between my home and between the school. It's like in the streets I'm the safest. So I got bullied a lot too for being too outgoing. The kids used to call me retarded because like I was always laughing too much and making too many jokes. So that would happen as well. And I remember that I had this specific during elementary at some point where I was like, I'm gonna turn myself into a machine. So like that was my goal. I was like, I'm gonna take all these things that people are saying, people pick on me for, and I'm gonna just shove it all inside. And, like it's not gonna come out, and I'm not gonna be a target anymore. That's kind of how I learned to deal with it. And what would happen eventually is that 2013 or 2014, after going through a long process of shoving all that shit inside, I would have my first panic attack, which I see, as those things coming out, because whenever you repress something, it's gonna blow off in a certain way. And so I ended up having these panic attacks. And part of the social anxiety issues that I was having is connected to all this in the sense that, probably because of what I was taught and how I internalized things, if I go in and I talk to people and I'll be myself, people are gonna make fun of me, pretty much. So that would cause me anxiety because then what I would do is, I would put on the mask on like so much of us do. It's like I can't let that come out, so I'm gonna put on this mask on. And the problem with putting masks on is that it's like an ego thing that strives for perfection. So, I'm gonna go into the social situation and I'm gonna act mathematically in a specific way. And so people aren't gonna see the real me, but hopefully they're, not gonna make fun of the mask, and I was pretty good at it too. And when you have that perfectionism of having to put on the mask and all that ego and all that shit jump all together, that causes a lot of anxiety because you get like performance anxiety, right? It's almost like you're going on a stage. It's like I have to, do this. So that's my understanding of it.
And so tell me a little bit about, it sounds like the social anxiety has gotten better.
Yeah, it has gotten so much better. You have no idea. Like a lot of it is thanks to you. The meditation, the breathing, so much. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad things worked out for you. It's kind of, it's weird, Gabriel. Like I was thinking one of the downsides of streaming is that I never get to follow up with people. Right? And so it's kind of interesting. I never had this thought until now. So I was thinking that part of the problem with streaming is I can never show people step 2. I just keep showing step 1 over and over and over again. But there's something strange that's happened over the last week in hearing you talk about it, hearing you kind of share, because like you're already giving me everything, like you're packaged in a sense, like in a good way, right? Like, so I think you've like figured out. And so like in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're able to do a lot of what we normally spend an hour and a half on doing. So the interesting thing is like, we may actually be able to take step 2 today. Which normally I take step 2 with the same person because we meet for a couple of weeks and stuff like that. But I think there are potentially like other concepts or advanced concepts that I never thought I would get to on stream because everyone, but it sounds like y'all are learning. And so that's pretty cool. But let's kind of talk a little bit about, so after, as the social anxiety has gotten better, what have you managed to uncover instead?
Like there was just, it's like I said, I don't actually have a diagnosis, but it feels a lot like depression, or at least aspects of it, in the sense that my understanding of it is, maybe I'm wrong, my understanding of it is I've been depressed this entire time, but I didn't realize it anymore because my anxiety was like at such a peak. So if my depression's here, my anxiety was like here. And so like my anxiety was just so loud and deafening that I could not notice the depression anymore. And as I'm noticing that down here, there's still like a big issue where it's like I was saying, like my cognitive functions are just not okay. It's very hard for me to actually focus and learn things that I used to be very good at, and there's no motivation to do things. It's like I'm detached from reality in a sense. Like I don't feel like I'm a part of my room right now, for example. It feels very weird because back when I used to be mentally healthy, in a certain sense, I would always feel like I was a part of my environment. Like it's like things had a presence. Like it's hard to put into words, but like the desk I'm using right now, it's like this desk has a presence to it, even though it's not a living thing. And I would always be able to perceive like the presence of the objects around me. It's just like there's nothing there. Everything's kind of a shade of gray. and my mind is also very like scattered and foggy. Sometimes I'll have like good thoughts because like I'm planning on actually starting a philosophy channel and writing a book, and actually those are things that I want to do. And sometimes I'll have a thought that's like, oh, that's good, so I record it to my phone, and I'll take my phone to record it, and I'll press record, and then blank. It's like between my mind and my mouth, like things just get lost sometimes. It disappears in the mist. It's very hard to explain.
Okay. So what are some of the other things that you've noticed have come up as the anxiety has gotten better?
That's actually hard.
So why do you call it depression?
Well, it's kind of like because of a thing I used to feel before. So I gotta feel you in on this actually. Uh, I was playing actually competitive Dota for a while. I mean, like 2014 to 20 something. So what happened was my cousin introduced me to Dota at the end of 2013, and that was during my high school period where I didn't have any friends and I kind of hated everyone. I had a big ego at the time. I was like, all these people, they're just stupid. I'm not gonna associate with any of them, which was also a defense mechanism at the time because people always rejected me. So my thought process was, if I reject them first, then they can do it, kind of thing. So I would just like disqualify and lower everyone in my mind so that I'm the one rejecting all of you now, suckers, kind of thing. So
Yep.
I didn't have a whole lot of friends with that attitude, obviously. I would just keep to myself. So I was playing Dota, and through Dota, like I was amazed. I fell in love with the game because I've always been very good at games actually, and I was picking up the game so fast and learning so fast. And I didn't even know of esports at the time. Like I had no idea that was a thing actually. So I would see an Arteezy stream eventually, and like he had like 10K viewers, and he was playing. The whole chat was fogging, and I was like, wait, people like this a lot. I had no idea what's going on here. And when I would watch Dota tournaments, it was back when Zyri had like the dreads or whatever. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, man, that guy's working like that. It's like, it felt to me like a community where you could really be yourself, is what I'm trying to say. Like, that guy is himself. He's being himself. He has this haircut and he's doing all this cool shit. So I always felt like I couldn't be myself in the real world, but in the Dota, the online gaming community, I was like, yeah, and I'm gonna have value as a player, and then people are gonna have to pay attention to me. That's my thought process. And I was actually doing very well. I was like playing very well. I'm still immortal rank currently. That's why I don't really play anymore. I think I'm at like 6.3k MMR. And the only reason I'm giving all these details is because I know you know about it. It's gonna be helpful. What would happen, unfortunately, was something that was absolutely soul crushing to me because even though I was pushing everybody out and just focusing on Dota and I had a pessimistic view about people around me, I didn't feel depressed at all. I actually felt like very at peace. I felt like my feelings were justified and I would embrace them. Like, yeah, I fucking hate these people. I don't care. Let's play Dota. I mean, I still felt good, basically. Uh, and that was until I had my first panic attack. So when I was going to school, second year of high school, a friend used to come here for us to go to school together. And when we were approaching the end of the street, my body just did something it had never done before. It was a very weird experience. So it's gonna be kind of hard to explain as these things are, but it felt like everything was moving like speed of light around me, and at the same time, nothing
Every,
was moving. It's like
everything was moving what?
at the speed of light
Okay.
around me. It felt like the world had just like evolved into light speed in a millisecond. And there wasn't even anything going on. Like the street was completely empty. There were no cars. Like there was nothing. But in my mind, like everything was just so fast and rushing, and it felt like I could see like 10 years into the future or something. It was some really scary shit. And I told my friend to stop. Like I couldn't even speak because I felt like I'm not in my throat, and I just signaled to my friend. I was like, wait, like took a deep breath, and I was like, okay, I think I'm okay. So we went to school. That was the first time that happened. And what would end up happening is, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where. So it sounds like you talked about Dota. Now you're talking about a panic attack. I'm not quite sure how this relates to what depression feels like for you underneath the anxiety.
It's about to connect. Sorry,
Okay.
I know it's a big tangent. Just
Okay.
bear with me. So, what would end up happening is I would have this more and more frequently when it was time to go to school. So eventually I just told my mother, like, I don't want to go to school anymore because every time I just merely think about going to school or I know that I'm going to have to, like my body, my nervous system would just completely shit itself pretty much. So I told her, like, I don't want to go anymore to work.
You
I'm
just
talented. I
you
know.
just cut out there for a second. I don't want to go anymore. What?
Yeah, I don't want to go anymore because I felt really bad just at the thought of having to go to school. And I was telling her, I'm gonna do this DOTA thing. I know what I'm doing. I'm talented. It's gonna work, so I don't need to go to school anymore. All that jazz, pretty much. And she actually allowed me. Like, she put her trust in me because I was speaking about it very confidently, and she was like, "Okay, no, I trust you." And then a terrible thing happened. And this, guys, is why you don't run away from your feelings, because I ran away from school because I was feeling panic attacks in there. And though it was always completely fine, I would get home from school, play, chill. And then what happened was is these attacks transferred over to when I had to play Dota. It was absolutely terrible. So I would queue up, press find a match, and I felt like there was a hand in my throat a lot of the times. Like there was something just crushing it. And I would always just like be dry heaving and coughing. And I would have to like pause in the middle of matches to run to the bathroom and just throw up. And then I would come back and keep stomping noobs, but I would be throwing up in the
Um,
So it's gonna tie into your question. It's about to, I promise. So what happened was is it was a very soul crushing process to me because all I had was Dota at the time. I had shoved people out of my life, of like I don't want anything to do with any of you. And I had a big ego of like, I was that which is good at Dota. It was my identity. And like when that started getting taken away from me for something that was out of my control, like I felt so fucking crushed. It was like there's nothing left in life for me. It's like this thing that's my passion and I love so much and I'm doing well at it. Now my body's breaking down and I can't really do it anymore. So that's where I started getting depressed in the sense that everything just lost meaning at that point. And because the only thing I loved was taken away from me. In that sense, I couldn't do anything. And I was a stubborn asshole still at the time, so I didn't go seek any help for my panic attacks or anything. Maybe I should have done that, but who knows what happened in that parallel universe. But everything just felt really bad, and I felt my emotions start to numb. So like I wasn't really there anymore, and I would refuse to eat as well. I remember this one time I would just no longer eat, and something very bad happened because I wasn't really eating properly for like 2 days straight, and it's like my head was spinning a lot every time I moved it, and I couldn't really walk very well. So my mother found me. I wasn't even gonna tell anybody. It's like I was ready to die in a sense. I was just sitting in my room in my bed, not eating anything, and I couldn't really get up very well anymore. And I was like, I don't care. I don't have anything, so whatever. And like my mother opens the door to my room, and she's like, you okay? You haven't come out in a bit, and she comes to check on me, and I just tell her like very matter of fact, actually I can't walk very well right now because I'm feeling this way and blah blah blah. So like she gave me strength at the time she came. She held my hand, and you have to snap out of it, kind of thing. And so I started eating again, and eventually I would recover, but I wouldn't really feel anything anymore. I would be numb for a very long time, for maybe like 3 years. And then after those 3 years, just being completely numb and being in my room, not doing nothing. I didn't go out. I didn't get a job, nothing like that. Didn't get any new friends. After that time of 3 years, just in that deep state of what I believed to be depression, again, no diagnosis, what happened is that my anxiety picked up. And that's what I have lived for the past like 5 years of my life, this baseline anxiety that I told you about. So now that I am rid of it, I'm seeing that maybe there's remnants of that point in my life, and that's why I call it depression. That was a very long tangent. I know.
Yeah, so we'll talk about tangents in a second. But so I'm still curious about what you experience on a day-to-day basis that makes you use the word depression. That's what happened back then. What do you experience today?
It's less what I experience, and it's more what I don't experience. It's a lack
Okay.
of experiencing things,
What
to be
do
honest.
you not experience today? What's missing from your life?
color, connection.
Are you sad?
No, actually, and that's something that bothers me a lot because it's like I don't feel any emotions. It's like I want to feel sad, I want to cry sometimes, and I just can't. And I
Okay.
don't think that's normal.
Okay. Okay, so Gabriel, we got to talk about tangents for a second, okay? So, now you ready for the level 2 explanation? So there,
Yes,
now
please.
you're gonna have to be careful because if we want me to help you, I don't need your conclusions. I need the raw data. So one thing that's happening right now, and this is a double-edged sword, it's neither better nor worse. So on the one hand, we can cover a lot of ground, but I think we're still like missing a lot, right? So you've watched, it's clear you've watched, it sounds like videos. So you kind of know what kind of questions I ask. You're sort of sharing like particular traumatic moments. But you're kind of giving me the package. The problem is that like if you give me the package, you've set up the problem in a particular way where there is a answer.
Yeah,
Whereas
I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, I understand. So that's why we're sharing it, right? So like no one's done that before because you did what I usually do, which is fine. I hope you're not. It occurs to me maybe I'm shaming you, but like that's really not
I feel fine.
Yeah. So like I think there's because honestly there is a lot of good stuff in there, but like I think that I would like it if I could ask you questions and you try to stick to the answer. Don't give me the conclusion because I'm hunting for raw data, right? So like when you like I'm absolutely fascinated. Like I have so many questions for you about why SA is toxic and like why do you guys show up on US East servers? Like, you know. Like I've tons of questions for you. Love that you shared that, you know, you tried to go pro Dota and stuff like that. I do think you're genuinely like you're creating a lot of value by offering like some of the nuggets that you've learned. Like I imagine that could help a lot of people. Because you certainly have a way with words. But if we're talking about helping you, you know, I like so my question is like, you know, I have some questions about your upbringing. Like, how do you feel about your mom?
See, it's hard for me to know what I feel. I have to think.
Yep. Good. That's what we want. Right? Because usually
Okay.
when I ask you a question, you'll give me like a narrative that connects and has a, you know, a finale.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. So, I know it's not a very nice thing to feel, but we don't control our feelings. But I felt like she could have done better in a sense, just, you know, having recently separated from my father and like going so quickly into a relationship with a guy she didn't know enough about. I think, you know, I would have liked if she put a little bit more thought into what that would have done to me. But it's not like resentment. I don't feel any resentment towards her. Like, with like that's the house here I live. It's me and my mom, so you know we live together. We're both there for each other. We help and we support each other. We have a really good relationship.
Would you allow yourself to feel resentment towards her?
When I was younger, it was a lot easier. I used to feel it a lot back in elementary and things like that. Like,
What
you
did you
know, like
resent?
how can it was like how can she allow this to happen? Like this guy to do these things, you know?
And what was the answer you came up with?
There was no answer, if I'm being honest.
So how did you deal with that?
Just by, you know, good old fashioned, just toughen up, forehead, I guess.
How does it feel talking about it now?
It was kind of unfair. I feel like I was robbed of something.
Mm-hmm. What were you robbed of?
A decent upbringing where I could connect emotionally with the adults around me, probably.
And who robbed you of that?
Well, you could make an argument it was my father, first and foremost, if he hadn't been such a dick. In a sense, you know, she kind of dropped the ball later as well. But, you know, everyone has their issues.
Okay. So Now I'm going to invite you to notice what you did when I asked you that question. Right? So what was the first thing? I don't know if you remember, because it's hard. So I said, who robbed you of that? And what was the first thing you said?
My father.
Nope. Technically, you said you could make an argument.
Yeah.
Right? Which means, if we think about it, do you blame your father?
Oh, I've done tons of that.
I know, but when I ask you that question, who robbed you of that? What was the answer that we got? Does the answer indicate that you blame your father?
No.
No. What was the next thing that you said?
That my mom dropped the ball.
And then you said something else.
Yeah, it was some rationalization. I can't even remember it.
Very good. Right? So, like, it's really interesting. How does it feel when we kind of unpack things and, like, I'm blaming your mom. You feel that? How does it feel to have me blame your mom?
It doesn't feel bad, actually. I think, it's reality, whether we like it or not.
Okay. So you feel okay with me doing that?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. Can I think for a second?
Sure.
Okay.
I should have said no, damn it.
What are you up to nowadays?
So, I have some things I want to do, but that's future. So, what I'm up to right now, it's basically just self-improvement. I'm really trying to, figure myself out and so I can have a normal life again, kind of thing. So I watch a lot of your videos. I do a lot of meditation. I have been trying my hand at the whole dopamine detox thing because I don't actually feel like playing any games anymore. That's part of what I consider depression. It's because it's not just about the games. I actually don't feel like doing anything. So
do you feel like improving?
sometimes it's very sporadic. Sometimes I'll have a day where I'm like, oh, I really want to do this thing or really play this game. But that's like once every 2 weeks, maybe.
Okay. So we've got a couple of options, Gabriel. Okay. So one option is we can kind of like, in a sense, almost start from scratch. I think I can ask you questions in a particular way that will lead to maybe a crack within your emotional shell. I think we both know where those questions are going to go because we've seen, all of your transparency. And even as you're thinking about it, I can see there's changes in the way that you're sitting, in the way that you're thinking. You've had a smile on your face for a while. And sometimes as we get close to something, like, you haven't needed to deflect much, right? But there are like very few times where you'll deflect, you'll block, right? Because like it sounds like, and we can talk about that if you want to. We'll see. I think you are well defended, so I don't know that that's actually the best use of our time. But if that's what you want, if you want to like cry on stream, we can try to help you get there. Okay. I think you are quite intellectual, and there are other things going on here, which I'm almost inclined to meet you on an intellectual level, which is very different from what I would do in therapy. But I think like we're here to teach really more than to do therapy. So I think that there are like a lot of important principles or lessons to be learned, because this is actually I'm kind of offering this today because it's a rare opportunity where someone comes in and has already understood so much of what we usually do. So it gives us a unique opportunity. But I think for you, some people come on here and they have this kind of like emotional catharsis, and then they like start to make changes in their life. And it's like, I just got a DM this morning from someone, they were being really nice, a prior stream guest that was like, hey, I just wanted to say I've like benefited a lot, and like I'm realizing things in a new way. Like
That's really
I
cool.
don't know that if we go the sort of academic or intellectual route, I don't know how much it will actually help you as a person. I think it'll be very intellectually satisfying, but like, would you like to understand yourself from a high level, or would you like to like feel yourself on an instinctive level? Like, what do you want?
Definitely what I'm missing is the feeling. And I like that you used instinctive because that's always like how I've been. I've always been like very connected to the animal side of the human being, let's say, where I've always felt things very strongly, instinctively, and now I don't feel them anymore. So that route sounds good.
Okay, that's going to be tough. So let me think about this.
Okay.
I may wind up going the intellectual route anyway.
All right. So it's your show. And I'm fine.
Yeah, no, let me just give me a second.
Okay. Oh shit.
Hold on. When was the last time that you did feel a lot?
So long ago. Holy shit. It's gonna be hard to remember. Probably back then, because I considered 2014 the year I died in a certain sense, because that was when I was having the panic attacks in Dota, and from that point onwards, I remember specifically for some reason, I don't know why, August of 2014. I'm not sure what's up with that date, but I remember that from there onwards, I haven't felt a whole lot.
Okay.
So it's like 5 years, give or take, maybe.
When you think about the traumatic stuff that happened to you, do you feel any emotion?
No, it's because it's why I joke about it. I'm not really feeling anything too
Okay.
dramatic. It may be just part of my personality too, because I have that kind of personality where I'll make fun of serious shit, and I have offended people in the past doing it. So
Can you tell me about writing poetry?
yeah, actually, this is gonna be a little bit embarrassing. So I used to fall in love very easily during my school years, and a lot of the poetry I would write would like be specific for a girl I was in love with at the time, and I would like show it to her, and she'd be like, "That's fucking stupid," kind of. Because at least like public schools in lower income areas in Brazil, it's a rough crowd. I'll say that much. There were kids that with problems probably worse than mine, in a sense. So people weren't very happy with the kind of, very happy with me in a sense because I was too happy and I wrote poetry about love. So
And what do you how long has it been since you've fallen in love?
oh, it's been a long time as well. And I had some like incel issues for a while in the sense that I've never been reciprocated. So, for a while there, it's been a long time, maybe 7 or 8 years where, I actually blamed the women and all that stuff. But it's not like that anymore. I realized that I was at fault at the time because I kept constantly trying to fill in a hole that I had in me by, acquiring partners, so to speak. So I know it was completely my fault. But we're in 2021, maybe 4 years.
Okay. How do you feel about yourself?
Uh, I feel like I am capable of a lot of things, and it frustrates me that I do none of them.
How does it feel to be someone who is incapable of doing what you're capable of?
Feels very weak, cowardice in a sense. Also, maybe some resentment towards myself too.
Can you feel that resentment?
Yeah, it's liking my stomach right now.
Okay. And what do you feel in your stomach?
It's gotten heavy out of nowhere.
Okay. What do you wish you were?
This is gonna sound like some philosophical bullshit, but the inner me that I know that I am.
What's it like to not have access to that person?
It's very disheartening, disappointing, and also maybe rage-inducing. Even though I can't feel a lot of anger, it feels like I have anger in me somewhere. It feels that way, I guess.
How do you know you have anger in you?
It's a very instinctive thing. I can't really explain it. It's like I can kind of just tell that it's in there somewhere, that there's no logic to it.
Okay. How can you tell though? Like, it's kind of a weird question, but it's sort of like how does your mind know? How do your neurons know to produce the word rage inducing?
I have no idea, but I do embody the concept that we aren't just our minds. So, but
Yeah, it's
just
philosophical BS.
It comes like from somewhere. I don't know, the soul, that kind of thing.
No, but that's philosophical, right? Like so like in a very practical sense, when I ask you how you feel about yourself, right? What I'm hearing is like there's some like it's rage inducing. Like the way that you live your life pisses you off.
Yeah, because I've had this thing of kind of seeing myself in the third person for the very long time, and it's like I'm watching myself ruin my life by inaction, and it's rage-inducing.
And what are you doing about ruining your life? Like you can see everything, Gabriel. What are you doing about it?
Well, I'm trying very hard. I'm watching videos. I'm seeing a therapist, but it's like
But what?
It's as you said. There's something missing. I don't know what it is exactly.
What's missing?
Me?
Yeah. More importantly, whose fault is it that it's missing? Who's responsible for finding it?
Definitely me.
And how does it feel to have not found it yet?
Very frustrating. It's like it's why I gave in a little. I tried for so many years, and then I'm like, no, I'm finally gonna see a therapist because I was trying really hard to do that, and I had a lot of pride about that as well. Like I'm a smart guy, I can figure this out, so I had a lot of pride about it.
How do you feel about seeing a therapist?
It's been great. It's like absolutely great.
Do you feel weak?
Yes, because back then when I was, when I shoved people aside and I had a big ego and all that, I felt very strong. I didn't like pick on other people or intimidate them, but I would always stand up for myself. I was a strong guy, and where people would always like be lazy or falter, like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this. Like I would go and do it. I just have like so much presence to me, and none of it is here anymore. That's what makes me feel weak. It's like I have no presence, and I know it is my fault because I made it a point to disappear with my presence because it was making people make fun of me.
Sounds like you screwed up, Gabriel.
Yeah, a lot.
Is that what you feel like? A screw up?
Yeah, that's in there, all right. It's like I'm in such a good position too. My mother's taking care of all the financial shit. She's doing so well. Like, it's that thing too where I saw you talk about in one of your interviews when you don't have to do something, it's harder to get yourself to do it because from a financial standpoint.
Gabriel, do you feel like a deadbeat? You know what that term means?
Yeah, I know what it means, but I won't go that far.
Okay. How far would you go?
Someone who's very actively wasting their time. I don't know, like what word I would use.
Actively wasting their time.
Yeah,
let me see if I understand you here. So it sounds like, you get an A for effort, but certainly not an A for results.
Yeah, pretty much.
So is that something that feels distant from you, that feeling?
I would say so, yeah. Everything is just so numb. The negative, the positive, it's like, it's all equally hard to get to.
Yeah. So here's what I think is going on. I think we got close. I don't know. So this is the kind of thing where, like, I think I could bludgeon you into emotion. Like, I could do things like I could call you the things that you have called yourself in those dark moments, and I'm pretty sure the emotion will come roaring out. I think a lot of stuff is going to come roaring out. Like, the negative emotion is going to come out, and also like anger and hatred, and like you're going to get the ego is going to come out, and then it's going to be me and you, like you're going to be in the garage, I'm going to be upstairs, I'm going to pick up the drawer and I'm going to throw it through the window. Like, the emotion is there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
And so if we were actually a cult and we were at a retreat, there may be some utility to like having that kind of deep emotional exploration. I don't know that this is the time or the place, or that I feel comfortable heaping on you the abuse that it takes to get you to feel.
I would actually like to go for it if you're willing, because I think that's what I need.
I'm not so sure that I'm willing.
Okay.
Because I don't know that I understand that you're hungry for it. I don't know that it's going to be good for you. Okay, so like...
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I wasn't thinking anything. I was just feeling a little sad.
Why are you sad?
But because it's like you said, I feel like I really need this, but,
Yeah, so there's something important there, right? So like, when I say that you're not gonna get it, what am I sentencing you to?
just going back to my daily routine of, kind of trying to do it myself, and it never works.
And how do you feel then?
Stuck.
Yeah. Right. So I think that as we get to this, because like, here's what I'm hearing from you, okay, is like, you're doing all the good stuff, right? And like, you have a lot of patheticness in you, but you've learned how to like manage that in a positive way, right? You're like, I'm going to devote myself to growing, and I'm going to put my life together. And so you're almost, in a sense, putting on a mask. Like, it's the mask of like, I'm going to be someone. Like, this is the road that I have to walk and see. Look, everyone, look at how much social anxiety I've cured. Dr. K, I came on, like, I've been cured of social anxiety. I've been watching your videos for 2 months, and like, look at me. Look at how much I'm growing. Can everyone reassure me that I'm growing, please? Can we talk about how much progress we've made? And I played right into it, right? I was like, oh, Gabriel, you're level 2, bro. You're not level 1. So you came in and you asked me to play a part, and I played a part with you, which is that Gabriel is growing. But behind that is like this little thing, right? This little voice in the back of your head, which is like, it's not going to work. Because like, the person who's doing it, like, we can pretend all we want to, we can have an A for effort, we can check all the boxes, but something fundamentally is fucked. And that fundamental thing is me. And you can pretend all you want to, Gabriel, we're going to do all this stuff. And like, at the end of the day, like, there's just me who's always known that there's a problem, and like, I've never been able to do anything about it. There's powerlessness. right? And there's like all kinds of other notes here of like, you know, you love your mom has been the one person who has like, you know, been there for you, and also you blame her the most. And then like that creates conflict too, because like if you like, that's crazy. Like your dad is the one who deserves the blame. Your stepfather is the one who deserves the blame. But who is the person who let those people in? Right? Who was responsible for protecting you from her, like from those people? And so it can feel really confusing to like blame and feel resentment towards like the one person who's good in your life. And then what ends up happening is like somewhere in there, like you're not going to blame your mom, dude, because that's a dick move. Yeah. So there's like one punching bag that you've got left, which is yourself. And so like all of the blame that she deserves, like I'm just going to tell you, you redirect it to yourself. Like, does that make sense to you? Like, I think
I could have been stronger. I could have stood up for myself.
Yep. Right. So like anytime I try to blame her, you're going to say like, I should have been stronger. Like you're going to protect her by blaming yourself. What are you feeling?
Actual sadness for the first time in a long time. And I'm very happy about it, ironically.
Right? So like now like the dam is opening up and like everything is coming out.
Yeah.
Happiness.
There's anger at my father and my stepfather, but also at me for not standing up to them. And there's frustration of the things I had to go through, and I have nobody to talk those things through with anybody because I didn't have friends like that.
So going through it is bad enough. Going through it alone.
Yeah. I also like the few friends I had, they would usually betray as well. So I remember telling some very personal things to this elementary friend of mine that he just like exposed me to the whole class for no reason.
Oh, sure, he had a reason.
Yeah, I just don't know what it was.
I think he wanted to be a dick, right? He wanted to take advantage of you. He's being a bully.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the fucked up thing is he was also like an isolated student like me, so maybe he wanted to feel powerful for a day. I don't know.
There's your intellectual mind. So notice that every one of those statements you make, you're going to move further away from the emotion.
Yeah, I do that, don't I? I never noticed.
Now be careful, because now we're getting very like meta. Because do you beat yourself up for doing that? Because like
from my feelings.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
See? So you got to be careful. Okay? So like I know it sounds a little bit unsatisfying, and if you want to feel more, we can go for round 2 if you really want to.
I'm not sure. I'm just confused. I don't know what would be good for me anymore.
Yeah, so here's what I think would be good for you, okay? So I think that you have worked very hard to turn the dials on your emotions way down. Because like in the span of like, what do you feel? Nothing. What do you feel? Nothing. What do you feel? There's some anger in there. How do you know? I don't know. And then like in 30 seconds, it's like anger, relief, right? You said happiness. I think it's relief, really.
Yeah.
Is that like, oh, I actually can feel like this is what I've been going for, right? Like, but there's also like sadness and like self-loathing and like loneliness, which we really haven't heard at all in any of your narratives. Right? Of like reaching out to people like for support and like them really like stabbing you in the, like there's just a lot of betrayal, like just of so many dimensions. Like your grandmother not teaching you, like just kind of abandoning you, and then like giving you bad habits. Like that's the other thing. Like I think you probably let yourself blame them for screwing you up. But then what happens is then you tell yourself, like anytime your mind is like it's their fault for like, because we can hear that, right? Like your grandmother should have done a better job. But then what you end up doing is you step right into it and you're like, oh, but I could have been stronger.
Yeah, it's always about me.
Right? And so it's really interesting because, like, Gabriel, I think the reason that you're stuck is because the person responsible is not actually responsible. Like, if I blame myself singularly for global warming and climate change, then, like, I'm never going to be at peace because I can't single-handedly fix the planet. And you're doing this thing where, like, it always comes back to you. And I think the first thing you've got to start with is, like, self-loathing. Right? Because, I think it's, like, there's a lot there that, like, you really detest about yourself. There's a part of you that, like, rationally says, yeah, it's other people's fault. But then there's a part of you that's like, no, it isn't.
Yeah, you're just, like, screwed up or there's something wrong with you.
Yep. Right? And to sit with that thing is, like, really hard. Right? So in a weird... Go ahead.
At some point, that's just the conclusion you come to because, your family is beating on you, the school students are beating on you, like, it's just like every person, so it must be me, right?
Yeah. That is the conclusion you come to.
Like, I guess these people are right. I'm just too loud. I'm just too outgoing. I don't keep to myself enough. It's just, And well, one particular thing that my cousin told me once when I was like playing video games there with them is that I used to play games. I would like stand up next to the couch and like doing little hops with the controller in my hand, like I was very energetic. And a bunch of other kids were there too, and she was like, "Why can't you be like the other kids?" It was like, I was too young to even know what that meant. It was just like, what the fuck does that mean? I can't be like the other kids. I don't know.
Oh, sure you knew what that meant. What that meant is, why can't you be normal? Why do you have to be screwed up in some way? You understood exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
It sunk
Everyone's just like playing, sitting down. No, I'm the only one doing that. So.
Yeah. Everyone else is living their lives, and there's screwed up Gabriel hopping around Gabriel. Homosexual Gabriel. Right? Like everyone looked at you and they saw, like, they weren't sure what it was, but they knew something was wrong. That's like really the one conclusion.
The chicks I fell in love with, it was the same sentiment as well.
Yep. Right? How are you feeling about this conversation?
Oh, it's definitely cracking the show. I'm enjoying it.
It's weird, right?
It's like you said, it's really fun. It's still hard. Like, the tears don't really come out. They're just like, they're camping here.
So, Gabriel, dude, we don't want to take a sledgehammer to your psychological defense mechanisms. As much as, like, we're going to do relief, like, a little bit at a time, okay?
Okay.
You have to, like, build up a tolerance to it. Like,
you're the boss.
In this, I feel very confident that, like, it's sort of like if I'm learning yoga for the first time, I don't bend all the way. I'll break something or snap something, and the mind ain't no different. Right? So, like, you have to, like, let your mind gain that flexibility. Like, you're not ready. Like, I know you want it. Like, I get that you want the full relief.
Yeah.
And so like we're going to like teach you how to like handle a little bit at a time, okay?
No, yeah, that totally makes sense. I was just sitting here thinking like, well, the thoughts came to my mind now. I'm not sure what I was thinking anymore, but I was in agreement with what you're saying. I was gonna make an example. I don't remember anymore.
It's okay. Good. So we're short-circuiting your mind, which is good. So that means that your intellectual like crap up here is like not able to function because there's like emotions down below, which is exactly so that's good. Okay. So like Gabriel, like you'll get there, man. Like you don't need to even there's even another layer of like, don't judge yourself for not being able to get there all at once. Right? You're walking your journey. And so like, it's okay to like feel a little bit of emotion, feel a little bit of, I get you want more. You'll get there, man. Like I have complete faith in you. Okay. You'll start to feel again, you know, and you're just going to need a little bit of help. Like, and that's okay because let's be honest, you weren't given a whole lot of help for like what sounds like the first 2 decades of life. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm 23 now.
And if your solace and bright point of your life was SA DOTA, like...
Yeah, it was so good. And I actually had an offer to be like, people used to invite me. I'm not trying to like suck my dick, but people used to invite me even though like I haven't played for months. I got a thing offer and I'm like, I don't know, I just don't feel like playing. So.
Yeah. So now okay. I mean, so we stepped into the ring twice. I'm hesitant to step into the ring a third time. I feel like that size is what we're looking for. That's our limit, okay?
Okay.
You feel okay with that?
Yeah, I do.
How's your disappointment?
It's gone, actually.
Okay, good. Right, so I know that earlier when I said, I don't know if we can get there, you felt disappointed. It's cool. Like, that's fine. It's all part of the game.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
it was actually... It was like a little voice in my head, like, oh no, even Dr. K can't help. It's over.
Yep, right. So like, that's like, we triggered that, you know, I'm broken.exe. And so you came here with that, you know, the like, oh, because Dr. K will help me. Like, and oh my God, like he can't, oh my God, I'm screwed. And then it's okay. We'll get there. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, if it's okay with you, if you're really feeling okay with it, I mean, if you want to go round 3, we can try to. Each round we go, it's going to be trickier for me to do in one setting because I have to like skirt past some of your, you know, intellectual stuff. But I think it's, if you're feeling okay with it, 2 rounds of relief. Like I'd like to share a couple of concepts with you if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on?
I accidentally said squirt instead of skirt. And Twitch chat is having a field day with me.
I noticed, but I was like, whatever.
Yeah, I know. So here's the first thing that I want to say, Gabriel. Okay, so you were kind of talking about how like you experienced anxiety and panic attacks, and underneath was depression, right? Yeah. And you kind of call it depression because you're maybe not feeling sad, but you don't have any motivation. There are problems with your concentration, things like that. So this is the first thing to understand. Trauma is the great chameleon of mental illness because it can look like and manifest as anything. So one of my teachers once told me that if anyone has 3 separate diagnoses, all of them are wrong, and chances are it's trauma. So like anytime I work with someone who says, I was dealing with anxiety first, and then I fixed the anxiety, and I found depression, you're going to fix the depression too, and you're going to find something else.
That's exactly the feeling I was describing to some people. I'm like, the more I fix, the more shit I find. Just like
and that's trauma, in short. Okay? So trauma is the great chameleon of mental illness. Like it just manifests as all these different kinds of things. It's like morphling, where like 1 minute it's this thing, and then it's going to turn into something else, and then it's going to turn into something else. The good news is that even though it changes shape on you, that usually means you're making progress. And at the end of the day, if you can get to the root of the trauma, all of the individual symptomatic manifestations will fall apart. And this is where we have to talk a little bit about the Western system of psychiatry, right? Because these are symptomatic diagnoses. When I say you have anxiety, that is not about a root, it's about a symptom. Oh, I get nervous and sweaty when I speak in front of people. I feel tightness in my throat when I queue up for a game of Dota. Good God, bro. I'm so sorry. Like, Dota's our last bastion from panic attacks and anxiety. And you're so screwed if you don't even have that. Right? But it's a symptom. It's not like a root. It's not like you have, Dota is not the root of your mental illnesses. It may be the root of other people's mental illnesses. But in yours, it's a symptomatic manifestation. And this is why people get saddled with like multiple diagnoses. I'm sure that someone will diagnose you with anxiety. Someone will diagnose you with panic attacks. Someone will diagnose you with depression. Someone will definitely diagnose you with ADHD. And at the root of it all is trauma. And so like as trauma manifests in different ways, our diagnostic system, because it focuses on symptoms, will end you up with like 4 diagnoses on your chart if you're not careful, okay? But at the bottom of it is trauma. So let's talk a little bit about like, what happens in trauma and how these different things happen. So if we really listen to you, what we hear is really one problem, which is that you're busted. There's something fundamentally broken with you, right? And for women, it's one thing. You went down the incel route, right? So you could have gotten diagnosed with incel syndrome. When it comes to like school, it may have been something else. When it comes to Dota, like it's something else. Like the one message that you've gotten over and over and over again is like you're busted and broken in some fundamental way. And where does that come from? So it comes from trauma, and very specifically, where does it come from? So when you're a child or an infant, really, because do you know if you were physically abused when you were like 1 year old, 2 years old, things like that?
I cannot remember, but I would not put it past my father. So.
Sure. So like this is essentially what happens when your philosophical scientific self is going to love this shit. Okay. So when you are young, there's this thing called theory of mind, which is the realization that other human beings exist. Okay. So when you're very young, you don't realize that other human beings exist. Like your brain really doesn't have that capacity. As we get a little bit older, like as we become a toddler, like let's say 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, we start to realize there are other organisms. Like when you're an infant, when you're 1 year old, you're a single player in a sandbox game. There aren't even NPCs. And then like when you're 5 years old, you sort of start to realize, oh, there are NPCs in the world. And then, like, when you become an adolescent, this is why adolescence is so terrifying. You start the process of discovering these aren't NPCs. This is actually an MMO with other players. And that everyone is their own PC in their own world. And as we become adults, and hopefully if we become empathic and stuff, we begin to realize that there are all these other people in the world. And so the interesting thing is once we realize there are other people in the world and something goes wrong, whose fault can it be?
Only yours.
So that's what you think, but once PCs exist, right? Like once other people exactly, like you answered the question incorrectly, which shows us the problem and shows us your thinking. Because once 2 people exist in the world, responsibility can be on either one. But if you're a solo player in a sandbox game, whose fault is it? It can only be your fault. So this is what we see in trauma, and it's actually like very well studied now, and we sort of know this. That because of theory of mind, if I'm a 1-year-old child and I get hit, whose fault is it? It's my fault. And if you think about it, if we didn't think this way, we could not function as infants. So when I'm learning how to walk and I stumble and fall, I have to think about what I need to do differently. I can't go around like blaming my mom for me stumbling and falling at the age of 1. It's just you'll never learn anything. And so like our brains are wired to blame only ourselves, which is why trauma is so devastating. Because when you get abused, like the pain that you feel, you think is your fault. Like every time your dad hits you, you think you're doing something wrong. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault because you're the only thing that exists in the world. And then we get to this like complex where like you go through life blaming yourself constantly. Because early on, like your mind is like, oh, clearly, like when I'm in pain, it's my fault because other people don't exist. And then you discover that formula. That formula gets, not really hardwired, but it gets put in right protect mode, so it's hard to change. And then as you go through life, that formula gets reinforced, right? When girls reject you, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me.
I was just about to say, it makes a lot of sense for me because back when I was an incel, that's exactly what would happen. It's like girls would reject me, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? Just because they weren't into me, like, doesn't necessarily mean anything. I know that now, but back then.
Yeah, so then what happens is we have the trauma, and then our intellectual mind comes up with all the adaptations and protections and defense mechanisms, which is what happens with incels, right? So like, I can't deal with my sense that I'm doing something so wrong, so let me construct an external worldview that like deflects blame from myself, okay? And this is where like you are just misattributing blame right and left. Like we're like, because now like when it comes to your mom, you're taking too much blame. And when it comes to incels, like they're attributing too much blame to the outside world, right? So like the point though is that something about the responsibility structure in your mind has gotten like miswired. And so we see this a lot because like, and this is why like it's going to keep on manifesting as weird things. As long as you're fundamentally busted, it's going to manifest in particular symptomatic ways.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, like, for example, I have all these philosophical ideas that I said I wanted to write a book or like make some YouTube videos. So I have them here on a notebook. And what will usually happen is, will you allow me to like read a very short statement?
Sure.
Something that I wrote down that I felt very good about. And basically what happens is, after enough time passes, I'm like, yeah, that good thing you wrote down that you were proud of? Yeah, it's trash, don't share it with anyone. So that happens a lot. So there's this thing I wrote. I'm just going to read it. Take notice of your insecurities and alter projections of past events. By fixing this, you will no longer be anxious and require your ego to protect you. So that's like the type of things that I write down, and then I can go deeper into it if I'm gonna make a video about it. And so I write these things down, and it depends on how good I felt about it. Like the better I felt about the idea at the moment, it takes longer for that thought to come, but eventually it comes. Like either a couple hours or a couple days. I'm like, yeah, that thing you wrote down? Yeah, nah, like it's obvious. It's not. There's no point in sharing it.
Absolutely. So now let's talk a little bit about like principle number 2, which is how this trauma leads to a lack of motivation. So like there's an equation that's going on in your head, right? Like you do something that you're proud of. And then that voice creeps up in the back of your mind that then says, this is dumb. Because from a very young age, you were taught that like you're fundamentally busted, right? So when you get abused, and you start to like blame yourself for the things that happen to you, which is the basic problem. Like that's what you experience through and through. Then how can you ever be motivated? Because what's the point? If you are fundamentally busted and even your greatest efforts are actually trash, why would you ever act? So this is where like, when you say there's a lack of motivation, absolutely. So the lack of motivation is because like human beings, our brain is wired to predict the success of an action. And that's what causes us to act. Like, I'm not going to go, try to chop down a tree to get a glass of water because my brain says like, it's absurd. My brain's like, there's no point in doing that because it'll never work. And so as long as you believe that thing about yourself, the motivation will be not even hard to come by, it'll be impossible to come by. It doesn't mean that you can't act, right? But like as long as there's a voice in your head telling you any action you take is worthless because it's never going to amount to anything, it's going to be impossible to motivate yourself. So that's what we sometimes call depression, because you're like, I don't know what to call this thing, so I'm going to call it depression.
Yeah.
Right? Which is fair. It's like, it's the experience of depressed people, but I think that depression is actually like a complicated term that can actually lead to, like, if you follow depression down to its roots, we're going to see multiple things. And what I'd say is if you're struggling with motivation and you have a history of trauma, the key thing that will really just shatter that apart, in the same way that we like, cracked your dam and like all kinds of emotions came out. Sadness, anger, relief, happiness. Like, what the hell is going on? The system will fall apart. And in the same way, your lack of motivation will also just like, it'll just crumble, man.
That feels very good to hear.
Yeah, if you can change your perception of yourself. And that's where we get into like all kinds of other things, because if you can't change into your perception of yourself, whose fault is it?
Mine. Absolutely.
So it'll keep going, okay? So be careful for it. But I've seen it happen. And in the same way that all the emotions will come rushing out, like you'll just start to feel motivated. Because there's a point to you acting. Then motivation will come. But in order for there to be a point in you acting, you have to have like some degree of like compassion and faith in yourself that you can do it. And that's a slow journey. And in your case, it starts with learning how to feel. And also
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy you're mentioning this, because it's like I was saying, I can see an inner me. Like, I know what he's like. He's very like charismatic, good with people. He has lots of friends. Like, he just goes and does things, and he's super cool. When I'm deep into meditation, I can see that person inside myself. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense, that I need to try and get to him because all this shit's in the way.
Yeah. And if you want to go even deeper, you don't need to get to him. He's already there. It's your effort to try to get to him that creates the sense of incapability.
Oh, I'm chasing an ideal. Oh, shit.
Right? So this is where, like it's weird. But as long as you're trying to get to him, you're not him. And what makes you not him is, like, not being him. Does that sound kind of weird?
I completely understand it, because I'm all about the philosophical bullshit, so yeah. I got it.
You get me? So it's the chase for the goal that actually it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you don't need to be any different, Gabriel. That dude's there, bro. You're there. We've seen him today. You've always been you.
It's fucked up, because people tell me that all the time. They're like, they can see like my charisma and my whatever, and I'm just like, nah, I don't think it's there.
Right? But it's there. It's the fact that you can't see it that moves it away.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you were saying, as long as I chase it, I'm not going to get to it. I just need to be. I completely understand. And it reminds me of, Vegeta chasing Goku. He's like, he never catches up. He catches up because he's just chasing.
Yeah. And this is where there's, I think like the last thing I'll kind of leave you with is this sort of idea from like this is why, like, when we look at enlightenment, there's all the Zen masters will say that we're already enlightened. We actually you can't become enlightened. You can't become anything. There's just what is. And so, like, the first thing that a Zen master does when they become enlightened is laugh, and someone asks him, why are you laughing like a crazy person? They're like, this has all been a gargantuan waste of time. I didn't need to do any of it. I was already perfect. And so even when we say enlightenment, we will also translate it as realization. Realization is not about gaining something new, right? You already have it, you just realize it.
Yeah, it's noticing what is.
Right? So like when you meditate and you feel that perfect you, that's not a perfect you. It's you. And as long as you think of it as a perfect you, you will by definition create an imperfect you. The two come hand in hand.
Yeah, because I will be the one that is not that.
Yep. So as long as there's a this, you're going to create a that. And since you love the philosophical stuff, that is the root of Advaita Vedanta. If you know what that is. It's non-dualism, which is like the major yogic philosophy that I tend to teach from.
I'm actually not familiar.
Yeah, so so it's ADVAITA VADANTA. I'll message you in Discord.
Okay.
But it's sort of this idea that like, there's just a one thing and everything else is an artificial construction that's created from the mind. And I think as you start to like, meditate and stuff, you'll begin to understand. So this is a philosophy that wasn't developed as a philosophy. It wasn't developed as an intellectual exercise. It was the way that people tried to put into words the experiences of meditation.
Makes sense.
So, any questions?
Not really. I think you've taught me a lot because you were definitely right on the thing that, I wasn't trying to come across that way as smart as when I joined, but I definitely had this whole thing of, I've learned a lot, I've done all these things and blah, blah, blah. And you've helped me see something that I could not see. So that's the biggest gift I could ask for.
Well, I'm happy to give it. So I'm going to leave you with a meditation practice, and I guess I'm going to leave it for everyone. I don't know that many people are going to be able to do it very easily. But like Gabriel, this is the main thing you need to learn. When you meditate and you find your perfect self, I want you to just sit between your perfect self and your imperfect self. So every time you tell yourself you are incapable, that should become your meditation. And I want you to look at that and realize, like, why do I feel imperfect now? And when you meditate and you feel that true you, why do you feel like that's the true you? Like, because if you really want to overcome this, you need to understand, like, what is the true you? So every time you feel incapable, sit with it. Every time you meditate, sit with it in the same way. Be non-judgmental. Don't prefer one over the other. And for those of you who have experience with meditation, I would encourage you to do the same thing, right? So like when we meditate, we sometimes see a version of ourselves that we try to gravitate towards. Why do we prefer that person as opposed to this person? What's the difference? I want you to swim in that space between perfection and imperfection.
Sounds hard, but I know what you're saying.
Yep. And so what you'll discover, I'll give you a little, do you want a hint?
Yes, please.
So what you'll discover, this is the real thing, is as you swim between perfection and imperfect, like there's the perfect you and there's the imperfect you, right? Hopefully one day you'll realize who the fuck is doing the swimming.
That's a very good question. Huh. No, I don't have a philosophical bullshit answer this time. So
Good, because you're never going to have one. It's impossible. So that's good. So then that's the meditation practice for you. So at the edge of philosophy, I'm not saying philosophy is bad. It's definitely very useful. But at the edge of philosophy comes subjective experience. Because philosophy is like the translation of, it's the objectification of subjective experience that we try to transmit between each other. So by all means, like, do philosophy, dude. Write your book. Share your thoughts, because I genuinely think they have value. I think you need to work on them. Right? So.
Thank you. But that means a lot coming from you, because I definitely felt.
I didn't know you wanted to write a book on philosophy, but like within the first 5 minutes, I thought the way that you put things together is like quite good. It's like Instagram calendar level, tweet level, deep shower thoughts.
Yeah.
/ I am very smart level stuff.
I've done so much introspection and gone through so much that I want to share this with other people pretty much. So that's how I see it.
I think it's fine to share, but I would really be a master of it before you share it. Don't share a half-baked thing.
Makes sense.
Like that, right? So like devote yourself to this and then like absolutely write a book, but like it should be packaged, complete, and thorough. Okay?
I'll take that advice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're very welcome, man.
See ya, chat.
See ya. Okay, chat. Tricky one was Gabriel.